Good afternoon and welcome to the Apprenticeship Texas Conference Session 2. I'm Desi Holmes, the Apprenticeship Director for the Texas Workforce Commission, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies today. Before we get started, chat during the session is disabled, but you can place questions in the Q&A box. Some questions might be responded to in the Q&A during the session. All questions will be included in the Q&A document. After the webinar, send additional questions and/or comments to Apprenticeship Texas at twc.texas.gov. We will post the webinar recording, PowerPoint slides, and the Q&A document in the apprenticeshiptexas.com. Additionally, we will be including the entire bios of all the presenters. I would like to give you a short preview of the session. The Apprenticeship Texas team developed this session to bring together key individuals to discuss agency services and support available to the Texas workforce partners, including employers exploring or involved in apprenticeship. Again, I want to thank you for joining us for this session. So let's get started. I'm excited to introduce Courtney Arbor, the Director of Texas Workforce Commission, Workforce Development Division, also my boss, where she oversees an integrated workforce development system that provides oversight, coordination, guidance, planning, technical assistance, and implementation of employment and training activities with a focus on meeting the needs of employers and job seekers in Texas. In her role as director, Courtney provides oversight and support with more than $500 million in workforce programs and initiatives. A portion of what Courtney oversees includes adult education and literacy, as well as apprenticeship. You'll hear from both of us in this session. I hope you will help me welcome Courtney as she opens our session, Apprenticeship Exploration of Workforce Partnerships.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Desi. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to say a few words and kick off this session for you today. We have a great lineup of panelists, many of whom I'm sure you know because they're out and about a lot helping us with this program and their own programs throughout the year. Maybe they're not out and about as much lately, but you still know them, I hope, and we'll hear some great information today. We have Adult Education Literacy, Skills Development Fund, and Vocational Rehab represented today on the panel to share a little bit with you about the program and how they're supportive of the apprenticeship model and helping us to really further this in Texas. Before I go much further, this wasn't part of my prepared remarks, but I just have to give kudos to the apprenticeship team. This has gone so well today. And even the engaging introduction to these sessions today, I don't know about you all, but I just have thought that they've done just such a great job preparing and engaging us. Even the music choices and the photos were so engaging and interesting. And Desi, team, I don't know if I've ever been so happy waiting for something to start. So those little things mean a lot for events like this. Okay, so you all know we're really passionate about apprenticeship at TWC. Our commissioners are focused on all types of work-based learning and really passionate about apprenticeship and finding ways to continue to expand to new demographics, new employers, new industries, looking at different ways of doing things. And the commissioners have even asked staff, to try just across the board, try new things. If we're going to fail fast and try again. You don't always hear that in government. So I want to take a moment just to applaud our commissioners for being brave, asking us to look at bold new ways of doing things. And I am so thankful that so many of you kind of link arms with us in this program and help to further it with that in mind. We really have a great environment for growing and expanding work at TWC, and so it's exciting to continue to see innovations in apprenticeship. A few years ago, the Department of Apprenticeship was created at TWC. Those of you who've been around for a while saw that change. It was a group in Workforce Division policy at one point, but the commissioners decided to make it its own department, which is a testament to the interest in really making this a high priority for the agency. As with other work-based learning models, we feel very strongly that Earn as you learn is a great model because it meets so many needs for the family, for the individual while you are improving your skills and able to keep moving up that ladder. We have a new initiative at the agency that I wanted to just briefly mention. You all may have heard it if you've listened to any of the commission meetings lately. There was talk in June and again this week, and some specific initiatives funded to end the middle skills gap. There are a number of jobs, actually several 100,000 jobs in the state right now that require more than a high school education, but less than a bachelor degree. Apprenticeship falls squarely in the middle of that, less than a bachelor, more than a high school experience or a equivalency or a diploma. And so this is one model that we are really focused on in ending that gap. We have employers who say they have needs. We have workers who say they're ready to work. And so you'll see from the agency a number of different initiatives around career pathways, credentialing, creating a library of credentials to ensure that we are targeting those jobs that employers have the greatest need for, and helping Texans to get into short-term training and into a path or into apprenticeship and on a path so that they can be successful and employers are finding the talent they need. So we've had, you are aware, we have had so much great, we have a great partnership with Department of Labor and other federal agencies, but Department of Labor has been such a good partner in providing these expansion grant opportunities. And so many of you are partners in that work. We want to thank you, community colleges, ISDs, employers, workforce boards. We could not do this without you. Our expanded funding in the Chapter 133 program through the years has really also been a catalyst for getting more and more people trained through this model. So we just continue to be excited every time you show your excitement for this program and bring your innovations to the table. You know, this is our 5th annual apprenticeship conference. We are virtual today, but can I just tell you, we had 352 people in attendance this morning. That is close to the number of attendees we would have if we had this in person, which again speaks to your level of passion and interest in this, and the team's great job of getting the word out. So thank you again for joining us. This session this afternoon, I think, is going to be very helpful in understanding a little more about the programs here at TWC and how we are continuing to share and spread this program and continue to grow it. Thank you again for your partnership, and I look forward to seeing all of you in person hopefully soon. But for now, I'll turn it back to Desi, our Master of Ceremonies. Thanks, Desi.
Thank you, Courtney. A great overview to kick off this session. Additionally, thank you for all that you do to support anything workforce, especially apprenticeship. Next, we have a special guest, Christy Cavanis, Manager of the Employer Engagement and Community Outreach Team in the Office of Employer Initiatives. Her team is directly responsible for the Skills Development Fund, as well as the Self-Sufficiency Fund. The primary goal of these grants is to connect businesses and workforce partners, such as community colleges and workforce boards, to provide the needed training for Texans to stimulate the Texas economy. Christy brings over 25 years of extensive experience in marketing, brand development, promotions, and corporate operations with a proven leadership skills. I've enjoyed getting to know Christy, so would you please help me welcome her to give us an overview of what she's in control of. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Thanks, Desi. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to get to share with you guys what I think is the best kept secret in Texas that should not be a secret. As I'm visiting with businesses, I love hearing the pause after I mentioned that the state of Texas has a workforce development fund that will, in some cases, pay 100% of the training costs for their employees. While they're thinking about what I just told them, I mentioned this is customizable training specific to your business. You can begin this slideshow. Thank you. Sorry. Just a moment, please. My view just went away. I'm back on, I apologize. My screen went black for some reason, I apologize. So Courtney, you jinxed me. You said that it had all gone so smooth, and here I am, sorry. Workforce is a major issue all over the country. Training the Texas workforce so that they make more money to spend in our communities fuels the Texas economy. Bottom line, a highly trained workforce benefits all of us. Next. So far, many of you know my outreach team within the Office of Employer Initiatives. As of September 1st, we are no longer an office. We are a division of the Texas Workforce Commission. And while we continue to focus on all the programs that we currently offer, we will now be within the Outreach and Employer Initiatives division. We have been charged to represent all of the TWC programs, which simply means we can evaluate and help steer our partners in the best direction possible to enhance the Texas workforce. Next. Sorry. Our mission is to deliver resources and solutions for employers to upskill the Texas workforce, facilitate business growth, and enhance our economy. As the employer engagement and community outreach team, we are the boots on the ground to help all the Texas communities with their workforce training needs by sharing all TWC programs, including apprenticeships. I have a desk aid that shows a variety of programs in an easy to read format, so that you can see what each program is, who it serves, and what's included. If you're interested in that, if you'll just email me at the end of the conference, I will get it to you. So let's start with our flagship training program, Skills Development Fund. I've got a quick video that will give you a broad overview.
Texas is providing businesses like yours with millions of dollars in grants. It's no secret, running a business of any size is expensive, which is why the Skills Development Fund, administered by the Texas Workforce Commission, is offering grants up to $2,000 per trainee and up to $500,000 per business. These grants help you keep the cost down while providing customized training for your employees. Through partnerships with public, community, and technical colleges, as well as local workforce development boards, you can upskill your workers for free. It's not alone. It's Texas investing in your business. Skills grants provide tailored curriculum, convenient local training partners, and flexible class schedules, ensuring that your employees receive customized, relevant training at little to no cost to your business. With several different programs, the Skills Development Fund has grants which suit the needs of most. The process is simple. Just reach out and one of our project development team members will work with you to identify training needs and walk you through the process. In as little as 90 days, your employees could be honing their new skills. Applications are accepted year-round. Train your workforce. Transform your business. Visit skills.texasworkforce.org.
Thank you. So businesses identify their specific training needs and partners with either a community college or a local workforce board to iron out the details. My team is standing by to help facilitate this process. Our goal is to see each applicant through to success. Next. One example is South Plains College, who was brought in to help train a much needed skilled workforce in manufacturing. These are the organization and businesses that came together to identify exactly what was needed. Next. The outcome was significant. Over $500,000 was awarded, along with equipment that served 205 trainees, with business partners contributing over $130,000 in in-kind funding. Those employees received an average of 1.2 wage increase. How did this fuel the Texas economy? The projected regional economic impact is estimated at $4.4 million. Next. Skills for Small Business operates much like a traditional SDF. However, it's perfect for businesses with fewer than 100 employees. Next. The training is based on the current curriculum available at the community college. This is a great way to jumpstart training for smaller businesses. Next. The Self-Sufficiency Fund is a powerful program. Next. SSF helps help those on public assistance or who are at risk of becoming dependent by providing training that leads to an industry recognized certification. This will result in permanent employment. Next. I read an article recently in the Dallas Morning News that called Texas the stickiest state. We have very low out-migration. According to a 2018 Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas study, 82% of people born in Texas are still living in the state. Since Texas must rely on our homegrown population, investment and innovation in public education is paramount. That's where we can help. Next. Texas is committed to creating and investing a talent pipeline that starts as early as middle school. We have programs in place to begin training at the earliest stage possible. We provide grants to purchase and install equipment necessary for the development of career and technical education programs. For instance, one ISD received a JET grant for $300,000 that supported the purchase of equipment for training in aerospace manufacturing and engine repair. 125 students received training with this equipment, and it helped them enter into the workforce. Next. High demand job training is where the local workforce boards and the local economic development corporations join together to provide high demand occupational job training to support their community. Next. For example, the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance partnered with South Plains College, Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center on a $140,000 grant. These funds were used for equipment to assist 536 individuals to train for target occupations like registered nurses, respiratory therapists, and emergency medical technicians. Next. Texas industry partnerships. These are available to local workforce boards who collaborate with a private industry partner that supports training for high demand occupations and facilitates economic growth. Next. Recently, a $74,000 grant was awarded to the Askew Family Revocable Trust, who partnered with Hallmark University in San Antonio to provide equipment, accessories, administrative costs to grow the region's aerospace, aviation, and defense and IT technology industries. Next. So let me plant the seed. The Texas Workforce Commission has a whole host of programs that can work together to enhance the business community. Apprenticeship can work hand in hand with skills development, Texas Industry Partnership, and high demand job training. Big picture, what does your opportunity look like at the end? From there, we'll gather the right people together at the table and we'll come up with a solution. Next. So here's my challenge to you. In your everyday work life, when you hear something about workforce development, workforce training, upskilling workers, think about the Texas Workforce Commission and the Outreach and Employer Initiatives team. We're the money for training people, and we want to help make sure that businesses in Texas remain the best in the country. Bring us your out-of-box thoughts or your in-the-box thoughts. Let's look at all of the TWC programs available, including apprenticeships, and see how we might layer or braid these programs together to benefit your community for years to come. I appreciate your time, and my contact information is on the screen. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Christy, for being here and being willing to share what your team does, how they do it, and some of the success that your team has had, and especially how apprenticeship can fit into the overall picture. And as you said in your closing, this is all about us looking at and identifying the needs of the employers and the employers letting us help them come up with the solution. So again, thank you for being here. Now our next featured speaker is Melinda Paninsky. Her current position at Texas Workforce Commission is a specialist for Workforce Alliance in the Vocational Rehabilitation Division, where she assists in the development of partnerships and programs across the state to create stronger employment and training opportunities for individuals with disabilities. Melinda and I have worked on a couple of pilots between vocational rehabilitation and apprenticeship. Hopefully there's more to come. So please join me in welcoming Melinda to share her insights with her presentation.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And yes, Desi, I agree. Definitely hope that there are more opportunities for VR and the apprenticeship office to partner more together. So thank you, Desi and team, for having me join you today to share a little bit about the vocational rehabilitation program. Next slide. For the next 15 minutes or so, I'll discuss the purpose of the vocational rehab program and how it's part of the workforce system in Texas. I'll also share some of the services offered by vocational rehab, who the program serves, and how it supports apprenticeships. Next slide. Great. So overall, the purpose and administration of the Vocational Rehabilitation Program, or VR for short, is the state's principal authority on vocational rehabilitation for Texans with disabilities. VR is a federally and state-funded program to help individuals with disabilities obtain, maintain employment, and also to advance in employment, ultimately to help them lead a more independent life. We know employment is part of that independent life, and so that's our piece for them. Next slide. In 2016, the VR program moved to the Texas Workforce Commission. It is one of many programs within the Texas Workforce Solutions System available for job seekers and employers. VR works alongside the 28 local workforce boards and service providers in the local Texas communities. And many of our VR offices are actually located within the workforce solution centers across the state, so that it's truly a one-stop service for job seekers and employers. So that's really a little bit about the larger system in Texas. So let's look a little more specifically at VR program services. Next slide. VR serves what we refer to as the dual customer. We have two customers that we serve. They are eligible job seekers with disabilities and the business community. Job seekers can be adults or youth, anywhere from age 14 and up. Any working age adults can be part of our program. And by working with our business community to understand their labor needs, VR can educate job seekers about skills and training needed to be a qualified applicant for those jobs. Both are equally important. It's customers to us, and it's our job to help assist linking them together. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about statistics. I'm not a big numbers person. I'm a more program implementation person, but I think it's important when we're thinking about disability to really kind of think broadly about what we're talking about. So we'll spend a few minutes in that area. So 1 million of our population in Texas is made up of working adults with a disability between the ages of 21 and 64. Of that 1.5 million, about 640,000 are employed, and about 67,000 are not working but seeking employment. So by working with employers and partners, like you've heard from Christy earlier today, the VR program and all the TWC programs is one way to help improve employment opportunities for this population. And by the way, just in case you were wondering, VR isn't specific just to Texas. Every state actually has a VR program. And if anyone needs to connect with those, they can certainly reach out. I know a lot of employers have footprints outside of Texas. And so we can always help connect them to a VR program in that state. It may just be called something different, but we can definitely help connect you. Okay, so VR specifically in fiscal year 21 served over 53,159 participants were engaged in VR services to help maintain, obtain, or advance in employment. Of those 53,159, 5,658 were in post-secondary education or training. We hope to see that number grow, as Desi said, to see more opportunities to partner together to increase training programs for individuals. Apprenticeship trainings would be a part of that post-secondary education or training. So we certainly anticipate seeing some growth in that area. 10,535 of the individuals served or engaged in VR services completed their planned services and achieved their employment outcome. And a number not on the slide that I think is important is over 87% of the participants employed remain so a year after completing VR services. So what that means is that retention was there because it was a good fit for the individual and the employer. And that's really important for us to help make sure happens. Next slide. Okay, I've shared a lot about numbers. Let's not go there anymore around persons with disabilities. And you may be thinking that's a large number. Who are these individuals? You may not see people with disabilities every day in your life. So let's look a little bit about that. So did you know? Next slide. People with disabilities are the largest minority group in the United States. It is a minority group that if you are not already a member of, you could be one at any time. 20% of the population will experience a disability at some point in their life. Over 80% of disabilities are actually acquired later in life. They're not something someone is born with. And lastly, the three most common disabilities for people under the age of 60 are depression, hearing loss, and visual problems. So what are some of these disabilities we are talking about? Next slide. Some are visible, like physical and neurological impairments, amputations, blindness, etc. So some things we see in our daily life and we can easily identify as it might be a disability for someone. Next slide. Others are more hidden. They're invisible disabilities, things like low vision, seizure disorder, hearing impairments, chronic pain, mental and emotional impairments, etc. Whether visible or invisible, they are disabilities that may impact some areas of employment or someone's life. When the impacts are related to employment or training, that's when VR services may help someone. Next slide. On the screen, there is a list of some of the VR services to job seekers with disabilities. Services like career counseling, job placement, assistive technology, work-based learning, academic training, and the list can go on and on. These services are based on each individual's needs and vary with each person's based on their employment goal. Through counseling and guidance services, staff work alongside the job seeker to assess what career field meets their interests and skills. Those services are then documented on the individual plan for employment, and that plan then drives what services VR will purchase or arrange to assist that job seeker. Next slide. So we talked a lot about the types of disabilities the VR program serves. Now let me share a little more on the eligibility requirements for VR. So just because someone has a disability doesn't mean they need VR services. There is a certain requirement around it. So first, they must be present in Texas for us to serve them. But as I mentioned, every state does have a VR program, so they can certainly connect with their state VR program. They must be eligible to work in Texas, have a disability that results in a barrier to employment, require VR services to prepare for, obtain, retain, or advance in employment. And lastly, be able to obtain, retain, or advance in employment as a result of receiving VR services. It's not as complicated as it may sound. So the key is, does someone have a disability and are they trying to be employed or stay employed? And they just need help. They're just not sure where to go. From there, they should just reach out to our office and ask to apply for services. A staff person will work with them to discuss the specifics of their case and determine what needs they may have. We've talked about who VR is, who VR serves, and some of the services to support a job seeker with a disability. Now, for the reason you all are joining this conference and this afternoon, is to hear about how TWC's programs support apprenticeships. Next slide. As I mentioned, the VR services are individualized. We look at the needs of each person based on their employment goal. Someone may need tools, academic training, transportation, assistive technology, and the list can go on. As I mentioned earlier, the job seeker works with their counselor to identify their employment goal, and the needed services are documented on their individual plan for employment. By partnering with other TWC programs like the Office of Apprenticeships, Outreach and Employer Engagement, community partners, and other sponsors of apprenticeships, VR is better suited to help job seekers know about apprenticeship occupations and give guidance in the development of their employment goal. So basically, through the counseling and guidance service, we only know what we know. So if someone hasn't been exposed to apprenticeship opportunities or really know that they exist, then they may not think it's something they can do. So by continuing to educate our staff in the work that's being done in the apprenticeship fields, we certainly then can pass that on to individuals and make those opportunities more available. Some examples of how VR is working across the state to enhance our access to apprenticeship trainings. Things like working with community college and career and technical education programs by having colleges speak directly to VR staff to share what trainings they offer. Often, VR job seekers are only aware of the academic side of those college programs, but colleges have many more programs connected directly to employer needs at the community. We are also connecting to local workforce centers around trainings through the grants that Christy mentioned earlier, the skills development training programs that some of the boards may be receiving. So when the workforce centers offer these programs, we can then help connect individuals directly to it. I know several programs in the San Antonio and Austin area have reached out specifically to engage VR customers to be a part of those training programs. So by knowing about these trainings, VR staff can connect their interested job seekers directly to these trainings, and the job seeker can then be served by VR and the local workforce board. Also, through these partnerships, we can develop programs like Explore Apprenticeship for our transition youth. Desi connected us with a couple of community colleges a few years ago, and we did a very small version of an Explore Apprenticeship program where we had students with disabilities go in and specifically learn about apprenticeable opportunities within those colleges. Fast forward a couple years, because we had to miss 2020, we now are taking that to our 2.0 version, we call it. So not only will we work with Dallas College and San Jacinto College at providing training in the local college on, classroom-based kind of experiential, we're also going to add a paid work experience component to it. So actually allowing them to be in some various employers that offer apprenticeships. VR can help pay their wages to be in an experiential learning program. And so we're kind of taking it to the next level. So we love growing programs like that. And our hope is that we expand it beyond those two colleges in the future to other areas across the state. So they're just some examples of how we're working to make sure VR customers are aware about apprenticeship opportunities, as well as letting employers know that it is a workforce that they can reach out to and be supported in the hiring and training of those individuals. Next slide. So I mentioned VR has two customers, and we've talked about the job seeker. Let's now look at the business community. This slide shares some of the ways we can better serve employers. We know they need a strong workforce, and individuals with disabilities are part of that. Services like awareness trainings, work-based learning opportunities, referral of qualified applicants, retention of employees that acquire a disability. Those are all services that the VR program's business team can assist with. All these services are at no cost to the employer and really help expand the diverse efforts of employers that they're already making. Next slide. So in short, we want to improve employment opportunities for qualified individuals and provide quality services that lead to a strong Texas workforce. That's really how the VR program is working with their dual customers. And we do this in partnership with the various programs you've heard about today, as well as many other partners across the workforce system in Texas. Next slide. And that leads us to the work culture. This is why it's so important. It ultimately comes down to this. I think the words on the screen say it all. A diverse workforce boosts employee morale, increases employee productivity by using talents, and creates a work environment that allows for everyone to reach their full potential. It also brings together people from diverse backgrounds, which promotes innovation that leads to better solutions to a business challenge. Next slide. So because we value the employers already engaged in the hiring and retaining of people with disabilities, TWC launched a recognition program called We Hire Ability earlier this year. This program is to acknowledge those employers with a Texas-based workforce of at least 10%. Individuals can self-nominate, employers can self-nominate, or they can be nominated by a local workforce board or via our staff. Really, it's about getting the word out and recognizing those employers that have made some efforts and really are, moving the needle and diversifying their workforce. They would receive an electronic decal and also a window decal for a storefront if so desired. Very similar to the We Hire Vets program that TWC has had for about 10 years now, I think. You can find the link to nominate on our TWC homepage or the link on the slide that you will receive. Next slide. This slide provides you with a few more ways to contact the VR to apply for services. I've shared a lot with you today and appreciate you taking your time to learn about a few more things offered by TWC and its many programs. Before we leave today, I want to have a thought. So it's, we have a lot of different programs and they really help us with our workforce, but our attitudes and mindset sometimes help drive where we're going. So I just want to leave you with one last thought for the day. Next slide. I would like to say, keep in mind when you meet a person with a disability, assume they are capable. That pretty much says it all, I think. And that's what we really want everyone to walk away with, that mindset. Thank you for your time and allowing me to share a little bit more about the VR program and how we support apprenticeships and job seekers and employers across the state. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melinda, for sharing and giving the audience and staff much help, as you always do in any of the engagements with you. Hopefully, there'll be more apprenticeship pathways for our vocational rehabilitation customers. So we'll keep working at it. Next up is Mahalia Baldini, currently the Director of Adult Education and Literacy here at the Texas Workforce Commission. You will find her very passionate about growing the Texas workforce. In her current role, she is focused on individual academic preparedness and advancement as we are in social and as well as social and emotional intelligence needed to contribute to the positive work culture aligned to employers' needs. All that said, which I stumbled through the words, sorry, but all that said, she's the perfect leader for our adult and education literacy department here at the agency. Please welcome Mahalia and her presentation.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Desi. I think I'm the last presentation of the day, and I've appreciated listening to all my other co-presenters. It just goes back to kind of solidify that we have so many programs here at the Texas Workforce Commission that are really geared towards our employers and our labor force. So it kind of gets me all riled up for my presentation that I have here today. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me. I think I have about 20 minutes, so hopefully I don't feel rushed and you guys don't feel like I'm rushed through this. But I love talking about what we do here in adult education. Next slide. So typically I would ask who's in the room, and you guys would participate in the chat, but since we've disabled the chat for the purposes of today, I'll get that information. The reason why I always ask that question when I start a presentation is because as we continue to kind of roll out adult education and really promote the program that we have here at TWC, it's always nice to kind of be able to focus those efforts a little bit. So if I know who's interested in learning more about our program, I'll give you some information later in the presentation today on how you can contact us. It just helps us to kind of know, like, hey, maybe there's some stakeholders out there that we're not really touching on that we should be. Next slide. So the Texas Workforce Commission has a couple of different titles under an act called the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act. Many of you may be familiar with that, but what it is we have 4 titles. Melinda actually falls under Title 4. You can go ahead and go through all of them. Title I is your adult dislocated in youth. That's operated, it's a board operated program. Then we have Title II with adult education and literacy, which I'll be talking about today. Title III, and then Title IV, vocational rehabilitation. Next slide. Specifically under Title II of WIOA, which is where we are sort of nestled, we have and are really charged with looking at and serving those basic skills deficient individuals and English language learners to help to support their literacy, their reading, their writing, their math, high school equivalency attainment, job training, employment, the list goes on and on. The way we do this through the agency is a little bit different than some of our other programs. We are a statewide competitive grant competition. So every 5 years, we put out a request for applications and we do these multi-year grant cycles. So different individuals and organizations within Texas can apply for funding to be able to sort of integrate the program locally within their communities. This is an $80 million annual investment. So that $80 million isn't for 5 years, it's money that we put out every single year into communities across Texas. We serve over 70,000 participants every year. We have a variety of instructional options available to all of our participants. And I'm going to go over some of those kind of key ones I want to talk about today. And these are free or low cost programs that already exist within your communities. Next slide. So a lot of people say, well, who has the money? Everybody wants to know, well, who has the money, right? So if you look at the grants that we currently have across Texas, we have about 16 community colleges that have money, independent school districts, educational service centers, a couple of nonprofits, and then we have 4 workforce development boards that also have direct grants with us. And the boards, of course, contract services out for those local communities. Next slide. If you're thinking about the Texas workforce AEL system as a whole and what that really shakes out as right now in terms of our grant competition and sort of where is the money and who has it, we have 37 core grants currently in the system. They are aligned to workforce board areas throughout the state. Now, if you're looking at this and you're kind of doing some math in your head, we have 28 workforce boards and we have 37 core grants, then what you'll realize pretty quickly is that we have some areas that you have multiple AEL providers in those areas providing the services that I'm going to be talking about today. Next slide. So when we think about why AEL, we can see, I'm going to go over a couple of stats with you that hopefully will show that this is really mission critical here in Texas. Adult education and literacy services provide such an opportunity for a population, I think, here in Texas that kind of go unnoticed a little bit and are untapped potential for the workforce and for our employers. We have about 13.9% of individuals that are 18 to 24 years old here in Texas that don't have a high school diploma or an equivalent. Next slide. If you bump that number up to 25 and you go up to 25 years of age and older, we're looking at about 2.8 million individuals that lack a high school diploma or an equivalent. 1.4 million have less than a 9th grade education, and then 1.4 million have somewhere between a 9th and a 12th grade education, but no completion, no diploma, no credential. And if you think about the purposes of today's conference and you're thinking about apprenticeship, and we'll kind of talk about what's that number one kind of starting point, and it's a high school diploma or an equivalent. So we have a large population of individuals that if we're really looking at eligibility and best suited for our apprenticeship programs here in Texas, we have a lot of folks right off the bat that may not look like good candidates for apprenticeship, and we want to change that with adult education. Next slide. Another population that we have in abundance here in Texas is our English language learners. So according to the American Study Survey from 2019, we have about 9.4 million people here in Texas that speak a language other than English at home. Of that 9.4 million, we have about 1.2 million that speak English less than well. And this is something that's self-reported through the survey. Next slide. If you bubble this up and you want to take this to a national level, 43 million adults in the US cannot read, write, or do basic math above a 3rd grade level. So if you think about some of those stats and some of those statistics, and you think about the eligibility and the probability of that population of folks getting into some higher demand targeted occupations, it becomes very clear that I think we need some adult education opportunities to kind of elevate that population into and get them into pipelines for registered apprenticeship and other programs that we have here in Texas. Next slide. So I want to spend some time today kind of talking about how does AEL really support apprenticeship? And what are some ways that those local providers within the communities can work with employers and work with apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship or bridge programs and really develop this pipeline more in hopefully the near future. Next slide. So when we talk about adult education and literacy, you're going to notice that under the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act, we were really charged with really focusing on a population of individuals to get them ready for some very serious work. You can see here that our program objectives are very aligned to supporting workforce development and increasing the outcomes for individuals in our labor force here in Texas. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I want you to kind of take an opportunity to read through some of our program objectives. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about who is eligible for our program. Next slide. So when you think about who do we really serve, I feel like our program is very broad when it comes to eligibility. A lot of people think, oh, that's the GED program, oh, that's the ESL program. And it is, it definitely is, but we serve a lot of individuals that already have their high school diploma and are really looking for opportunities like an apprenticeship program or opportunities in post-secondary education. But maybe they've been out of school for a while. How many of us could go take a TSIA right now if we've been out of school for the last 5 years and really pass the math portion of that test to get into a college credit coursework? It would be daunting. So when you really think about that education piece, we serve not only those that have a high school diploma, but also those that don't have a high school diploma and English language learners. We have a lot of activities that we in adult education, and I want to kind of go over the 6 kind of core components of the activities that we provide. So we have our core services, we have the high school equivalency program and beyond, we have our language fluency, but then we also have corrections education that we provide reentry and post-release services for. So if you're a second chance employer and you're looking to really connect and really want individuals that are just as involved to come and be part of your workforce, maybe an AEL provider could help to transition that. Employer engagement, workplace literacy classes is something else that we offer as part of our specialized service. And then career pathways, which is what I want to talk about the most today, which is integrated education and training program. Next slide. So we have a statewide need. I think we've established that with the data points that we had earlier. So if we're saying that we need to speed lower skilled Texans into targeted and high demand jobs and industries, how do we really do that? The resolution for that is something that we coin as the integrated education and training model, where we're really working with those lower skilled, low basic skilled individuals. Maybe they lack a high school diploma or a high school equivalency, they're a non-native speaker. And we're working with employers to develop pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship pipelines for those individuals. We are creating the academic readiness and the academic remediation to get them up to speed to support that pathway and that pipeline. Next slide. So if you put yourself in the shoes of our individuals that we really serve here in adult education, what you're going to see is we have a lot of adults that have a big desire and a big interest in our registered apprenticeship occupations and opportunities. But if you're looking at like a career pathway for an electrician and a registered apprenticeship program, it always starts right there with a high school diploma or high school equivalency. So how do we really support individuals that don't have a high school diploma, don't have a high school equivalency, maybe have low reading or low math skills, maybe poor communication skills, or lack the English language to really get prepared to enter into a registered apprenticeship program? Next slide. And we do that through this integrated education and training model, where we're really working with the employers and we're working with the industry folks to say, what is it that is really needed on the job? What does the individual really need to learn how to do when they enter into this registered apprenticeship program? And then those adult education providers in those local communities can kind of contextualize a very specific curriculum to help support those individuals so that they're ready to be a part of that pipeline and they're ready to go into that apprenticeship program. This is something that's done in coordination and collaboration with our employers so we can have common learning objectives and really contextualize all of the instruction that those individuals are receiving. Next slide. So kind of in conclusion, how can we really help? Well, skill lift and reading comprehension, math and writing. As an employer and someone in the workforce, you know, if you have an individual that can have all the training in the world, but they come to you and if they can't add and subtract fractions or they have very poor communication skills, those are some of the things that can really be detrimental to any employee that's looking for advancement within any kind of company. So we help with that. Also, we provide and can pay for training for individuals that are looking and are low basic skill, but really have a desire to go into post-secondary education. We want to make sure that we're creating that opportunity for those individuals. And don't forget our English language acquisition. We have tons of internationally trained professionals here in Texas that have degrees and great credentials and experience from their native countries, and they come to the US and they're dishwashers because they don't speak the language. And that is a real barrier a lot of times for individuals that are highly skilled in particular industries that are just unable to kind of transition those skills once they are here in the US. So we do a lot of work with our internationally trained professional populations to get them involved in the workforce here in Texas and get them back into the industries where they can utilize all that great experience and those credentials. Next slide. We are going to put our money where our mouth is. So we're really interested in developing our pre-apprenticeship models and really interested in supporting this apprenticeship pipeline with our AEL participants. So we are going to be working on a request for applications. The commission just approved this initiative here recently as part of the middle skills gap, which Courtney talked about earlier. $500,000 to develop a pre-apprenticeship model that supports our AEL providers in our local communities, working with local employers to develop models to kind of increase the awareness of apprenticeship locally and develop those models. It'll be an open competition. So if you're an employer and you think this is something, hey, I really want to tap into those workers, don't be shy about reaching out to your adult education and literacy providers. They're in your community. They're there to help you. Next slide. And if you're asking yourself, well, how do I do that? Well, we've got some options for you here. You can do a search by city or county. If you have a notepad handy, or if you can remember this, you can also just do a Google search and you're going to type in TCAL AEL provider directory. You type that into Google and what you're going to come up with is a directory of all the AEL providers that we have here in Texas. You can enter it by city or county. The one at the very top that is asterisk with a red little asterisk there, that is going to be the organization that is actually funded through the Texas Workforce Commission. We've also included a link here for you. Next slide. Questions, throw them in the Q&A. I think I'm going to get those afterwards, and then we can follow up, I think, in the future. Thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully that was enough information to get you interested in learning more about what we do. And if you do have questions, you can also send them into our email box at adulteducation.twc.texas.gov. Thank you so much. Back to you, Desi.
Thank you, Mahalia. I'm really glad you could take time to join us today and share with the audience the information. You have given a great information and given us great information to think about, especially the possibility of apprenticeship being able to access your customer pipeline as they move through your services. And the audience, I'm sure, found exciting the grant that you'll be releasing. Now I'll give you a short overview on apprenticeship services. Our Apprenticeship Texas team is here to support employers and/or other entities such as boards and community colleges interested in exploring, developing, and implementing registered apprenticeship training programs. If you want and just want to start the conversation or ask a question, just reach out to Apprenticeship Texas at twc.texas.gov. Email address, and we'll assist you from the start to the finish. Since this session is mainly about partnerships with the secondary subject of funding, I'm not going to define apprenticeship. I'm not going to start at the basics. For the audience, will remind you, if you are truly a beginner in apprenticeship, we will start with you on a one-to-one basis and define and further information that you need or you want. If you want to start a registered apprenticeship training program, reach out to us and you will think we have a secret book, Registered Apprenticeship Made Easy. We do make it easy. We make it easy for you to explore registered apprenticeship. We have specialists, they're kind of in the background today, but we have Ann Pham and Felipe Bronza. They're both working on the Zoom call that you're participating in today. And we also have Tara Cole and Sheila Ripple, who are our contract managers. And then we have Kimberly Patterson manning the Q&A today, making sure that we get all the questions so that we can respond to each and every one of them. I think our customer service during the process of exploring registered apprenticeship is one of the best services that we offer. I know maybe that y'all always don't receive the highest quality of customer service when you deal with any entity, but I want to encourage you to reach out. We are here to help you. Just a little bit about what we're trying to do over the next 4 years. We anticipate we'll be adding approximately 8,900 registered apprentices, as well as over 100 new programs. Very large goals, but I think Texas will exceed all of these. Now, on to the second subject. Now that I'll talk a little bit about funding. I hope most of you there have currently seen that Apprenticeship Texas expansion funding opportunity opened up earlier this month and will close October 15th, 2021. It is for $3 million, basically to support the development of new registered apprenticeship programs and increase the number of apprentices in Texas. With it being an open procurement, I can't tell you a whole lot about it, but I can encourage you to go to www.txsmartbuy.com. We put all of our expansion grant opportunities there, as well as Texas Workforce Commission puts their other funding opportunities there. So I think Kimberly was going to put that in the Q&A so that you could see it if I didn't read it appropriately for you to write it down. As you've seen in today's presentation, Texas Workforce Commission as a whole is very supportive of apprenticeship. Additionally, in this support earlier this week, there was approved an apprenticeship funding opportunity that will be coming out late, well, probably 2022, specifically for and to support information and technology. That was just approved earlier this week. Additionally, I want to mention Texas Education Code Chapter 133. Usually most people that have talked about or even tried to explore apprenticeship, this comes up. We call it Chapter 133 for short. It's funding that has a yearly application period, usually starting May, June of each year. It is to help support a portion of the classroom training for the Department of Labor's registered apprenticeship programs. It definitely doesn't fund all of it, but it's for a portion. Kimberly has another link that she'll put in the Q&A for you to see. It's basically twc.texas.gov/programs/apprenticeship -overview. But it'll give you all the information that you could possibly want to know about Chapter 133 funding. If you have questions, please reach out and we'll help you explore it and see if this is an option that you would be interested in. We'll help you explore all the options if you'll just reach out. Okay. This session has thrown a lot of information at you. I'm sure maybe some of you found it overwhelming, but don't let that keep you from asking questions. All of us on this call are here and ready to help you. Hopefully this session has or will inspire some creative ways to support more customers into apprenticeship, as well as ways to support the needs of Texas employers. Nobody leave yet. We are announcing the 6th annual apprenticeship conference in McAllen next September 22nd and 23rd, 2022. And we hope you come and bring some other partners with you. Please take our survey. We've tried to make it easy for you. There's a Q&R code on the screen, so you can use your smartphone and submit your survey as we close out the session. Remember, if you're registered for this session, we'll be sending you a reminder when we post the Q&A, the PowerPoint, and the recording of the presentation. I want to thank all of our guests for coming and taking the time to visit with us. And I definitely want to thank our audience for coming. And reach out. We're here to help you.